Our area's most beautiful properties deserve the finest realtors. Meeks Realty Group. We focus on buying and selling residential and commercial properties throughout the tri-state area. Contact Meeks Realty Group online at meeks.us or call 304-440-1101.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. 580 Live is presented by Thornhill Automotive and is broadcast live from the Parmar Stores studio. The country, the United States of America. The state, West Virginia. The city, Charleston. This is 580 Live. And your host of 580 Live.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
A good Wednesday morning to you from the Parmar Store Studios. 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group, the voice of Charleston, WCHS. Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Fruth Pharmacy text 304-935-5008. 580 Live, of course, comes to you from the Parmar Store studio. If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon. Parmar teaming up with the stations of WVRC Media to give away 500 gallons of free gas this Saturday at Old Main in St. Albans. Now, we've been registering people for the last month or so in all over the Kanawha County, Kanawha Valley area. The finalists are being called. I actually got to do a little bit of this yesterday. I actually volunteered to do some of it. I actually got a handful of the registration forms and called some of the finalists myself. A few of them actually answered, and a few of them to talk to me, and one of them had at least heard the show. So that's good. So we're calling people to let them know that they're a finalist. If you are a finalist, we want to see you at Old Main in St. Albans. Even if you're not a finalist, come on down and join us, Old Main in St. Albans, 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. We're going to see who wins that 500 gallons of free gas, courtesy of WVRC Media and Parmar Stores. And remember, if there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon. 580 Live is also brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group. Summertime is here. Time to find new roads to the Thornhill Motor Mile during the Red, White, and Vroom celebration. Celebrate with a new Silverado. Click or come by ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or on US 119 in Chapmanville. Ryan Nicholson, our producer today, coming up a little bit later on in the show. Delegate Dana Ferrell is going to join us. And Dana's got a couple things he wants to talk about, one of which is this proposed recreational park for the Kanawha Valley area. He's going to talk about that. Plus, Dana's a big high school sports guy, so we're going to talk not about the on-the-field stuff, but more of the off-field stuff as it pertains to the transfer rule, what I call the transfer portal, which is what it's basically become in high school sports. Dana's going to talk about that. Plus, State Democratic Party Chair and Delegate Mike Pushkin a little later on in the show. I describe this guy that I'm bringing in first as the always entertaining, because he is the always entertaining Rob Cornelius. How are you, man?
I appreciate it, Dave. Good to be back.
Great.
A couple months. You're having a good time. You're driving all around the state, giving away gas. That's about $1,700. I mean, someone's getting a $10.99, but it's worth it.
Well, it's a fun life. This life that I lead.
Well, you're having a blast. And Marietta's like one of my hometowns when I'm not in West Virginia. So you're welcome at all times. I think we have the same favorite restaurants.
And, I'm a big fan of the Galley in
Ditto.
Marietta.
I'm old enough to call it the Adventure Galley.
Okay,
that's what it was in like the
90s. And also the Boathouse.
That's good. That works. And over in Harmer,
yeah.
Scenic Virginia Street neighborhood.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful. If you ever get a chance to go up to Marietta. All right, so what have you been up to? Last time I had you on, if I remember correctly, you had been at war, at least partly with a few members of the Republican Party in West Virginia.
Well, I mean, that was a 4-year process. Supreme Court finally swept that, dealt with that, dismissed the bad guys. I guess I was back in April. We last talked on air, and we won that. Now we're just going through the legal machinations of making sure they follow the original court order from Judge Tabbitt here in Charleston, which heretofore they have not, and pursuing other legal possibilities beyond that. There's a lot of bad things that happened. A lot of civil rights are violated for a lot of voters in Wood County and around the state, and some folks need to be corrected in their actions. So we're working on that right now with our council, with basically getting everything back to where it was and making sure the state Republican Party behaves lawfully, which has been an issue for the last 4+ years. They just ignore state code, period.
So for people that weren't listening to that, what exactly was the story? I don't want to spend a lot of time dwelling on this, but what exactly was the story here?
Long story short, yes. I'm too aggressive and too conservative for the state Republican Party, or at least I was 4 years ago. I called the leader of said party a few things that were mean but true. She then proceeded to throw...
This would have been Melody Potter.
Yes, proceeded to throw me, try to throw me off the state committee in violation of state law. She tried to cancel an election, and the Secretary of State went along with that. And they did. And I was removed essentially for my free speech against her and the governor and various others. And nowhere in law could she do that. Courts agreed. 4 years later, here we are. So we figured that out. We knew we were right. We knew the First Amendment still exists in America, and I'm pretty good at the First Amendment. So boom, we win.
And so where is it now? You won, but
we
does
won,
anything
but
happen?
no, they have not obeyed the court order. They're obviously going to owe my counsel his bill for this case. They kept appealing and appealing, went all the way to the Supreme Court and lost. So that's going to be pretty substantial. But more important, they need to go back and do the things the court ordered them to do, which is obviously they reinstated me, sort of, but also they need to make changes in their bylaws to not break state law. Essentially, long story short, because they had bad attorneys and bad legal advice, the state party of West Virginia, Republican Party, said, we don't have to follow state law. It doesn't apply to us. We can do whatever we want. That was clearly wrong, and now we're going to have the results of that. For me, it's just getting back. I still do political consulting. I still work on campaigns. I still work in PR, all the stuff I used to and all the stuff I've done. And, I've considered running for things we talked about the last time I was here. We'll keep considering on that note. But I'm going to continue to be very political and be very, very involved in our state's races.
On that note,
yeah,
heard rumors that you may be looking at a statewide office. Do you care to talk about that?
The best statewide office that's open, that has the most enforcement, the most ability to do good in state government, I think, the state auditor's race. And that's moved around. Obviously, JB was in for governor until a couple days ago, and now is in for attorney general, which, ironically, you can be a non-attorney and run for attorney general. I think someone should do that. This is like a comedy thing. But the auditor's office has the ability to investigate almost anything in the state government. And that is really, really appealing to me as someone who likes to absolutely break faces and bust corrupt politicians, period. Whether you're stealing money, whether you're sleeping with your girlfriend at work and the taxpayers are having to pay for it, there's a lot of bad stuff that goes down in the state. And with the billions of dollars that have come flying in COVID money, broadband, all these things, people are going to steal again. And JB's done a good job opening things up with the checkbook and that office, public integrity, making sure that people who are bad get in trouble and go to jail. But if I were auditor, we would set the record for public officials we put in jail. Gladly.
Very few people, and again, we're talking Rob Cornelius. Rob, very few people have had an issue with the way that J.B. McCuskey has run the office.
He does a great job.
On both sides of the aisle.
He's a longtime friend. My mom babysat his dad in the 50s in Clarksburg. I've known these people forever. Wendy used to work with us on campaigns 20 years ago, his wife. That's a good family. He did a good job. If he wants to move up and out, good for him, but he's done a great job in that office. And frankly, I think a lot of folks had consternation about this, thinking he might be coming back to it because he did such a good job.
I heard some people around the state that said that they with all due respect to JB, they wanted him to stay as auditor because they thought he did a good job.
It's interesting.
Heard the same thing, oddly enough, about Patrick Morrissey, Attorney General, and I heard the same thing about Mac Warner, Secretary of State.
Agreed. People don't have a real beef with those guys, and Kent Leonhardt. Don't forget about the Ag Commissioner.
Absolutely.
It's funny. In West Virginia, you can win an office and stay in it ostensibly forever. Now, you do a lot of your business in Ohio. I live on the Ohio border. In Ohio, it's different. Everybody's term limit, which everybody says they want. We want term limits for everybody. But what happens is then the same 6 people just rotate through those state offices. They have a little meeting. They say, well, I'll be Sec State the next 8 years.
So it's like a board of directors or
and
something.
And literally, in Ohio, it so rarely changes. You so rarely break up that board structure. And the State House and Senate work the same way. 8 years, and you either got to go up to the State Senate or got to take a break. Because you can come back later in your life. But it's very, very regimented, and there's a very strong state party and set of adults that tell you, you're going here this time, you're going here this time, you're disappearing for 4 years. So
you kind of dropped that there a little bit, that you may be considering a run for state auditor.
Yeah, and my issue is, I filed an open committee to run for whatever. I've done it the last 3 cycles just to have it available to you in case it happens. Reality is, like you have a day job. And I'm not going to make any decisions that affect this until essentially the end of the year. I have I announce sports in another state, and I've done it for 20 years. And I'm not going to do anything that jeopardizes that or changes that until at least the end of my football season. And my employer knows that, and I think everyone knows that. But I'm going to be as involved in West Virginia politics the next 4 months, the next 4 years as I've been, and that means I'm going to keep pressing on things. I mean, there's things we're working on investigating right now. I've got a vote buying thing I'm working on in Logan County. A bunch of guys you probably know, Dave. Been working on that for quite a while.
In Logan County?
I know it sounds shocking. It's Republicans this time. But there are things going on. I've always got my hand in the pie someplace, and we're going to break some people in public, I think, just for sport.
Okay. And Rob Cornelius is with us. So I do know that I think Delegate Caleb Hanna has announced that he's going to run for. I've known Caleb for a long time, and I've also heard the name Eric Nelson being thrown out there. I've heard the name. That doesn't mean
that's
you can
certainly a guy from Charleston who can run. Look, the deal with these down ticket offices is this. Unless you are individually famous or individually wealthy and can just cut the check for it, everybody starts at effectively zero. And I think that's what, frankly, J.B. McCuskey and Weld and others are learning this cycle. Even if you've been in office 6, 8, 10 years or whatever, unless you've had a reason, something big has happened to be on the front page, or you had a real competitive campaign where you spent $1 million or more dollars, nobody has any idea who you are. So geography is critical. For Caleb, the hard part is he's from, I think, one of the smallest counties in the state, a rural area that doesn't bring votes. The ideal candidate for any office right now is generic Republican from the Eastern Panhandle. That brings you the biggest packet of primary votes next year. So that's a dangerous person in any race. Being from Webster Nicholas is hard. Being from Wirt is hard. No one's ever going to get elected statewide from Calhoun County again. There's a lot of things like that. So geography is super critical because either people know you from your media market, and it's one of the big media markets, or you're buried. And then you've got to buy your way on. You've got to find that $1 million.
Yeah, and that's what we're finding right now. I mean, with JB and some of these other people that are running for governor, it all comes down to dollars and cents.
Here is a hard truth for people. I know all these people in the state government that I talk to, campaigns I run and deal with all the time. You guys think everybody knows you. You go to the right church. You think you're in Rotary. Everyone knows you because your dad was a baseball umpire for 100 years. No one has any idea who you are, and they don't care. If you're below the governor or U.S. Senate level, you are lucky if your name ID is 20%. And that applies to all politicians. Good luck. I mean, imagine how much Kent Carper's name ID has dropped for that lady not to know who he was. See, that's a joke. I slipped that in.
I got it. I'm asking myself, should I laugh at that?
You should.
What I'm asking.
You should.
All right, so let's talk about. I want to switch gears away from you for a moment. Well, no, actually, I don't. I want to go back 1 second. All right, you get me all confused here. I do want to go back.
I'm like Danny. I'm just going to throw things at the wall and see what you want to go after.
Do you think that the past battles that you've had with the state Republican Party could hurt you in a statewide race should you decide to run statewide?
No one cares. State Republican Party, you can tell by how much money they raise that no one cares. It's an irrelevant organization. They don't pick candidates. They don't pick winners. They don't pick
irrelevant.
losers.
You're saying the state Republican Party is irrelevant.
The state Republican Committee is irrelevant.
Okay.
Republican voters are the most important thing. That organization doesn't move money, doesn't move votes. It's basically a social club. So it's not really relevant to most campaigns.
Okay. All right, switching gears now. Does Joe Manchin run against Jim Justice for Senate, in your opinion?
No.
Does he run for president, or does he run to the House as into retirement?
He does a third-party stretch out the clock as long as you can thing for president, most likely, or just disappears into the sunset, and or he can have a talk show if he wants. I mean, he can have he could do it, but that wouldn't interest him. He is such a busy guy. Again, I'm not personally a big fan or big friend of his, but I respect how busy he looks. His work ethic, or at least optically, he looks like he's always busy. He looks like a guy carrying 6 cell phones back when everybody barely had one.
Right.
That's the thing about it. He looks super busy. Like him or not, he looks competent and busy. So he can do that. He's going to stretch out the process as long as he wants. He doesn't want to end his career on a loss, and I think he's smart enough to know that, look, here's the numbers, Dave, and not everyone's a big election nerd like we are. He only beat Morrissey by 3 in 2018.
Yeah.
He didn't break 50%. And since then, the West Virginia electorate has flipped 18%, 18 full points D to R. It is impossible. You cannot win as a D here statewide, money agnostic. Give him 20 million, 50 million. What's the difference? That's where you are. That's the situation he's in. He can read it. He has adults around him who are better with numbers than I am.
Okay.
He doesn't. That's not a surprise.
Who wins for governor, in your opinion? Is it too early to tell?
Patrick Morrissey.
You think so?
Going away. No one else has shown a sign of life. No one else has shown the fundraising. His report was nearly flawless, and it was big. If you're going to be a guy who's a cut-the-check candidate like Chris Miller, I don't see it. You have to catch a guy who's now he's been running since 2012 and running successfully. And while his negatives were raised by Manchin and Blankenship, and I worked with Blankenship in 2018, Patrick, in a race with more than 2 people in it, is an easy winner.
All right, last question. Justice v. Mooney.
Mooney can win. It doesn't look like it right now, but he can win.
You think so?
Yeah, because he's more conservative. Justice has never had someone actually run to his right and run hard. And the ingredients to do so have been there, but prior folks against him have not opted to use those things to hit him. The one that just came out of the wallet this week, the Democrats are pushing, but it's frankly something I've been studying since 2015. Jim Justice employs hundreds of foreigners on visas at the Greenbrier. Speak, Spanish, Mexican, whatever. That's an issue. D's are going to play it. The R's are going to play it. Americans in West Virginia who scream wall are going to love that. And that's coming. And it's beautiful.
There are, and I'll close with this, Rob, there are some high-ranking Republicans who shall remain nameless that have told me they are going to do whatever they can to make sure Jim Justice is not senator. And these are Republicans we're talking about.
Well, I've been saying that since 2015, since I asked him where the capital of Israel was the day he announced for governor. He's a bad dude.
Rob Cornelius, I appreciate it, man. As always, a pleasure.
Dude, happy to help you fill the time here. It's a good time. You're having a good show. Call me when you're in 45750.
I'll do that.
Let's do that. Let's have a lunch.
Rob Cornelius, 923, 580 Live, presented in part by Travis Willard, your Edward Jones financial advisor, just off the Taze Valley exit. Learn how Travis and the team can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com or call Travis Willard today, 304-397-5553 for your Edward Jones financial advisor. Travis Willard, Edward Jones, member SIPC. Back after this from the Par Mar Store Studio, 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses live to make life better for you and your family.
Chevy Summer Drive is here, and it's time to find new roads to the Thornhill Motor Mile. Hey, it's Sydney inviting you to the Red, White, and Broom celebration, and what better way to celebrate than with a Chevrolet Silverado. Get ready to experience the thrill of adventure with unbeatable deals on new Chevrolet Silverado. Save big with Georgia's Star Spangled Manager's discount up to $5,500 off, $1,500 RST package, and $7,500 off lifted custom packages. Click or come by at ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or US 119 in Chapmanville. Red, White, and Broom. The celebration is on the road to total savings. 12 for Super Team Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
This is Valley Outdoors' second anniversary. We only know one way to celebrate. Big, baby! Get down to Valley Outdoors July 27th through the 29th for an at-dealer cost sale on every in-stock new Smith & Wesson and Sig Sauer firearm in the shop. Hundreds to choose from. Daily giveaways and a wild Valley Outdoors customer appreciation event Saturday evening. Free food, more prizes, yep, micro wrestling. For complete details and schedule of events, visit valleyoutdoorswv.com or check us out on Facebook. Valley Outdoors, just off exit 39 in Taze Valley.
Thrive with 5 at the best community bank in the Kanawha Valley, Poca Valley Bank. Poca Valley Bank is now offering a certificate of deposit special, 10-month APY, annual percentage yield 5%. Take advantage of this great rate to grow your savings. For more information, stop by a Poca Valley Bank location today or call 844-782-2651. Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Certain terms and conditions apply. Rates based on minimum annual percentage yield. Subject to change without notice. Minimum deposit required of $10,000 of new money not currently on deposit with Poca Valley Bank to receive APY. Member FDIC.
Unsure you're ready for retirement? That's understandable. After all, you only retire once. Make the smart choice and call 4th Avenue Financial. If it deals with retirement planning, you can be confident they have the experience you need. Retire right with 4th Avenue Financial. Go to 4thavenuefinancial.com or call 304-746-7977 to book your free introductory meeting today.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Incorporated, JW Cole Financial, JW Cole Advisors, and 4th Avenue Financial are unaffiliated entities.
926, 580 Live, brought to you by Valley Outdoors. Their anniversary being celebrated Thursday through Saturday of this week with an at-dealer cost sale featuring daily giveaways. Then on Saturday, enjoy free food, micro wrestling, and more. For a complete schedule of events, visit valleyoutdoorswv.com or check them out on Facebook, Valley Outdoors, just off exit 39 in Taze Valley. Text says the Cornelius case demonstrates what savvy voters know. Every Republican allegation is a confession. The GOP alleges the Marxist left wants to cancel you. In the meantime, the West Virginia GOP apparatus literally canceled Cornelius, according to a texter. Texter says, I like this Cornelius guy. We need a blank buster in office. I appreciate that. Can't say what they said, but you can pretty much guess. Text said the women in the state will come out in droves to vote this election. You attack their rights, they will attack back. Williams will win big for governor. Don't know who texted that, but I don't know if you're allowed to gamble on the air, but no, there's no way Steve Williams becomes governor. No way. With all due respect to Steve Williams, next Republican is the next governor will be a Republican. And I wish Steve the best. Seems like a nice enough guy, but that's just where we are right now. Dana Ferrell is with us right now. Delegate Dana Ferrell. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm good.
You got a lot to follow when you follow Rob Cornelius. You know
That's
that?
what I hear.
You're kind of a laid-back kind of a guy, so and then we'll ramp it back up and push this. But you got a lot of important things to talk about. I want to talk about this proposed water park resort for the area. Now, last time you were on the show, you talked about it. You were a little bit vague in the details, understandably so. What can you share this time around about this?
Okay, well, first thing I want to emphasize is that it is still alive. It is still very much in the works. We are, in fact, I just talked to the developers in Fort Worth, Texas last night. They are still very much the intent to be able to develop here in the Charleston metro area with a major resort. This is an $80 million first phase, a total $150 million total build out. They would have already been in here. Their original plans when they flew in here in March to do the site visit and look at the area and visit with local leaders. They wanted to be back here in May and break ground, cut ribbon, but we've run into some problems with the access road.
And where exactly are we talking about now? Or are you allowed to say yet?
Well, I can be. I think that's not too much of a secret now. Anybody's been on social media. Even the developers posted things about this. And it's at the 77, 79 interstate split. There's a large parcel there, about 300 acres, that sits right along between Westmoreland as you circle back up north around 77. And you access that a couple of different ways, but one of the main ways I think they're looking at is come in off of Newhouse Branch Road off of Pennsylvania Avenue. That's about 0.8 of a mile. It is already asphalt through there, but it's just not wide enough for, if you're looking at more traffic and large vehicles and motorhomes, fifth wheel RVs and that kind of thing coming in out of the RV resort. So, the request is that this get upgraded. So, we've been back and forth with the state about what that's going to cost, how that's going to take place. The developers would like, obviously, that to have assurance that road's going to be upgraded to snuff before they make a major commitment on the site. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the state is like, well, we don't want to, and they're being prudent with taxpayer money, but they want to make sure that the developer is on board for sure before they make an investment in the road. So that's been, but we've set up a process by which both sides will be protected on this, I think, and we're getting there. So, in fact, the plans are to sit down with the governor's office this next week, and be able to go through that and hopefully push that across the finish line.
What exactly are we going to see at this proposed park?
Okay, great question. And phase one, and that's something they think within 12 months from the time they get, ink the deal and sign the agreement on the property on the site with the owner, is that phase one will be 175 RV sites, and these are deluxe RV sites. This isn't just state park kind of thing. These are upscale with the cement pads and patios and fire pits and those kinds of things. And 175 of those, 50 cabins, deluxe water attractions. When we say that, there's a lot of water. There's no water on the site, but they'll create the lakes, ponds, waterfalls. In fact, the name of the resort would be Aspen Falls, is what has been touted up there.
Aspen Falls.
Write
it down, Ryan. That's the first time we've heard that. Aspen Falls.
And
that's got a nice ring to it.
This is to go. They looked at the trees and what native trees in West Virginia, and the aspen tree is native to West Virginia, and they wanted to be able to use the landscape, the topography there to their advantage, and they would create some man-made waterfalls throughout the properties, and that creates a lot of water effects. Those are attractive when you're looking at tourism, and so there'll be 50 cabins along with that in that first phase. Like I said, there will be indoor, outdoor water attractions on that with a pool area, a lazy river kind of thing. So that would be complementary to promoting the RV resort and cabins and things, attracting people there. And then also a mountain coaster. You're familiar probably with those in Pigeon Forge and so forth. There's none of those in the state of West Virginia. None of them really in the Mid-Atlantic. You have to go to Manassas, Virginia, or Pigeon Forge for the closest one of those. So they felt like that, this is something that would draw people from a 4-hour radius, which, if you look at that demographics on that, that's about a 22 million people population base to pull from here in the Charleston metro area.
Talking with Delegate Dana Ferrell about this Aspen Falls.
Aspen
Falls is going to be the name of it. I like it, Aspen Falls.
All right, so let's go on phase 2 of that.
Okay, that's just phase 1.
That's the
phase 2.
The $80 million first phase.
All right, let's go to phase 2.
And the reason they want to do that is because the RV resort is the quickest they can have up and running and create cash flow and revenue stream. Right. But then it would go on quickly to a larger development part of it, and that is the hotel indoor Great Wolf Lodge type of. I'm not saying it's going to be that brand, but it'll be similar to a Great Wolf Lodge type of indoor water park. Along with an outdoor water park side of it. That would be open to the general public, too. Here, local people will be able to have access to that, as well as to people on site. They're looking at building an observation tower because this property, the higher points of it, overlook Yeager International Runway there, or airport. And so visitors can come there and be able to dine and be able to look right down on the runway. And as they say, Air Force One comes and does its touchdown takeoffs here. You can sit and watch that while you're having lunch or dinner or whatever there. And so it's something, they say in business, the only thing better than being better is being different. And this would be different from anything else out in the country in terms of the RV and overnight tourism business.
All right. Big question. Where's the money coming from?
Okay, great question. It's going to come from Texas and California. That's the great part about it.
We're talking about a private thing, right?
Oh,
It's a private company. This is not like the proposed Capitol Sports Complex. And I'm not trying to throw shade on that because I'm a big supporter of that.
Right.
But it's not like that. And this is private developers. It's not tax money or anything like that, right?
These are private developers. And let me say that the Capitol Sports Complex, they are very aware of that. And
I can see the two kind of working together.
They like that. They like the idea. So anybody that says, well, is this a good investment on a Capitol Sports Complex? Then yes, it is, because this is what's attracting people like this to come in and spend their private capital in West Virginia. Same with the Shawnee Sports Complex. They actually went down and visited the sports complex when they were in here in March. They've been out to the Cross Lanes Casino. Those are things. The Hatfield McCoy Trail. They actually traveled down to the New River Gorge National Park and the bridge. They've been there, seen those things on the ground, so they understand that these are attractions that are going to pull people to their resort investment. But their money, what they'll do is once they get this up and get the agreement in place, it'll take them 30 to 90 days. They'll go out and solicit capital from investors. And the RV industry is a $50 billion
It's a huge man.
And growing in the United States.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are looking places to safely put their money with the market all over the place as it is. So you're looking at a minimum 15% return on your investment in the RV industry, and that doesn't count some of the incentives the state tourism department was going to give them as well. So they won't have any problem pulling Texas and California money into this. And then once it's open, we're looking at up to a $40 million annual economic impact to the region. And that's money coming in from, as I said, that 4-hour radius includes Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Michigan, Pennsylvania. So that's out-of-state money being pumped into the local West Virginia economy.
All right, indeed. All right. So are we out of phases? I mean, because you had phase 1, phase 2. We're out of phases because I want to move on to something else. So
I will say this, that, and one other thing in that phase 2 is they want to look at building condominiums. Of this 300 acres, about 100 acres of it sits inside Charleston city limits. So over on that side, they look at maybe putting up condominiums where people could actually buy or lease, and then they would have access to the amenities. So that's kind of nice, too, that they would have there. The other part is, they feel like if they can be successful with the initial Charleston layout, they want to put in 3 or 4 of these in West Virginia. They feel like there's opportunities here to do that. So they're looking at southern West Virginia, north central West Virginia, and some other areas.
I would think out in the Panhandle the Eastern Panhandle would probably be a no-brainer for that as well. We're talking with Delegate Dana Ferrell. You'll keep us updated on that project, I'm sure. Now, I want to get to this, and it has to do because you're a sports guy. I want to talk about, and also you're an educator, so I want to talk about this high school, what I've referred to as the high school transfer portal. Student athletes, I suppose, can transfer from school to school pretty much as they wish for the purpose of sports without sitting out any amount of time.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what's changing. You brought me on the air here and said, he's usually a pretty easygoing guy. But, issues like this, it really kind of bothers me, that we've headed down this direction. As one area coach, I think GW coach Jamie LeMaster said, why is the state legislature getting involved in this? This is something that coaches, administrators, and SSAC should be looking at and running in. Why do we have our fingers into this mess? And, we're seeing already this has just been a mitigated disaster in terms of kids moving around. And let me say this. One of the things I look at, I think Senator Capito said one time, this state is a state of small towns. We're just, let's go back to Jason Aldean's. Do that in a small town. We're small towns across the state of West Virginia, and every small town has its local high school, and that's the cornerstone of that community. And those schools identify with the community identifies with the high school. And so they become a part, integrated. Friday night is more than just a game. It's about a community involvement, everybody's social gathering event. And you want your home kids that grew up in your church and grew up, you see them in the supermarket and so forth, be able to play with your home team, not playing across the county or in another county or somewhere just for their own self-benefit. In a society where it's all about me, it's all about self, we want to stress it's about your team, it's about your community, and putting others first.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a moment. I may have brought this up to you in the past. It's kind of an anecdotal type story here, but I have a good friend who was a former high school coach in an area outside Kanawha Valley. I want to preface that. He's no longer in the coaching game, but he told me once years ago, he and I were talking about this 15, 20 years ago. This is when he was still coaching. We brought up the subject of the high school transfers and whatnot, and he said there are some kids that he coached that the only way, Delegate, that they were going to be able to make it to college was through sports. Maybe they don't have good enough grades, or the parents can't afford to send them, or maybe parents make too much money for them to get financial aid, whatever. The kid has college-level skills on the field and on the court, but maybe playing for a mediocre team. They're not surrounded by enough to get them the attention that they deserve. His point was, why shouldn't a student be allowed to transfer to another school that gives him or her an opportunity to be able to put themselves on display? Maybe it's a down year for South Charleston High and they transfer to GW. I'm just using that as an example. That was his argument, was this only way this kid's going to get to go to college is if he's on a better team. Your thoughts?
Well, I spent 30 years teaching and coaching in public schools, and I can tell you that especially in today's environment with all the club and travel teams and so forth, if that student that wants to be noticed by a college recruiter or whatever, there are more than ample ways for them to
And in
do
fairness,
that.
this was 15 or 20 years ago that we were talking about. It's a different world with YouTube and things of that nature now.
Absolutely.
So good point.
These, in fact, most of the recruiting doesn't happen at the high school venues and so forth. Those college coaches are coming out and watching these club tournaments and so forth.
Yeah.
And if it's football, then they go to camps, and those camps basically serve as combines. And I'll go back even 20, 30, I'll go back our high school time, and Kurt Warner came out of single A, Pineville, West Virginia, and went to Penn State. So case debunked right there.
Okay, all right. So quickly, how do we fix this? You're in the legislature. How do we fix it?
Well,
what would you like to see happen? I'll put it that way.
This came about. The history of this, I don't think that the majority of delegates that I served with wanted this to happen to start with, but it was an amendment that was stuck onto a popular Hope Scholarship eligibility bill on the last day of session. And because it was stuck in there, the entire unpopular part of a bill was stuck into a popular one. In order for us to strip that back out of there on the last day, it would have killed the main part of the bill. So a lot of delegates were apprehensive to be able to do that. And so they just went ahead and voted this through, I don't think realizing the implications it was going to cause downstream. And the same, you noticed that the governor did not sign this bill.
Yeah.
He wouldn't veto it, but he wouldn't. But there again, because of the Hope
Scholarship
without
part signature.
of it, but he just let it go. So he knew and understood the problems this was going to create, even for his own school at Greenbrier East. But what we'll be able to do, I think, is look at is offer a bill this coming session to reverse that part of it. Not the Hope Scholarship part of it's fine, but this would go back and take out that. We had killed that part of that bill 2 years straight. It was very unpopular in the House, and like I said, the senator that kudos to him. He made a good political move and got it across the finish line, but I don't think that's going to stand.
All right. Delegate Dana Ferrell, it's always a pleasure. We got to go. Our phone calls to 580 Live are in service of Biggly Piggly Wiggly. Texting services provided by Fruth Pharmacy, your hometown family pharmacy. We're back after this from the Parmar Store studio. 580 Live brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group and the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses want to thank you for supporting local small businesses.
Really listening to you, or just waiting on his turn to talk? Hi, I'm Travis Willard, your Hurricane Edward Jones financial advisor, and I'm here, ready to listen. I want to know what's important to you. I want to learn about your goals so that together we can put you on the financial path that's right for you. Call me at 304-397-5553 or visit edwardjones.com to get started today. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Chevy Summer Drive is here, and it's time to find new roads to the Thornhill Motor Mile. Hey, it's Sydney inviting you to the Red, White, and Room celebration, and what better way to celebrate them with a Chevrolet Silverado. Get ready to experience the thrill of adventure with unbeatable deals on new Chevrolet Silverado. Save big with Georgia's Star Spangled Manager's discount up to $5,500 off, $1,500 RST package, and $7,500 off lifted custom packages. Click or come by at ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or US 119 in Chapmanville. Red, White, and Vroom. The celebration is on the road to total savings. Call 541-46 Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
Hi, everyone. This is Danny Jones here to tell you that if you're looking for a place to buy or sell a vehicle, stop into Larry Dawson's Auto Sales. Personally, I've known Larry for over 40 years and have bought multiple cars from him, even a few sight unseen, and have been pleased with every one. They're some of the best people in the business, and you can trust Larry and the crew to get you in the ride that you desire. I did. Visit LarryDawsons.com or go to 418 First Avenue, and Larry Dawson's place to go is in Nitro.
Do you have over $10,000 in credit card debt? If you're feeling the financial impact with unprecedented economic challenges, DebtBlue is here for you. With DebtBlue's Success Guarantee, you pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved.
I'm just living sky high right now. I'm very thankful for it, and the team at DebtBlue are phenomenal. They're able to work with you. They're great.
Call for your free debt resolution information now. 800-200-6895. 800-200-6895.
17 away from 10, 580 Live, brought to you part by Hudson's Pizza. Buy any regularly priced large 18-inch pizza. Get a free 2-liter Pepsi. Find your local Hudson's Pizza for delivery, pickup, or dine in at Hudson'sPizza.com. Text says, letting Rob Cornelius' xenophobia of Jimmy J's foreign workers go unchecked. Standard for the show. I'm seeing a lot more brown-skinned, Spanish-speaking people around. Many Democrats can get this new demographic since Republicans dislike them so much. Texter says, it's the first time I've heard Rob Cornelius on the radio. He's a smart guy. Texter says, I actually agree with Rob that the West Virginia GOP committee is largely irrelevant right now. Texter says, where's the loyalty to your home school? Sad time in state sports. Republicans need to stay out of local issues. Texas says Delegate Ferrell speaks well on the school representing the community. He was involved with my old junior high school band at Sissonville Junior High in the 80s, and our awesome director, Linda K. Ward. 45 years later, I say thank you, Dana. I'm sure he's listening right now, so there you go. Mike Pushkin's here, State Democratic Party Chair and Delegate. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
I have lots to get to with you this morning, man.
Let's get to it.
Interims coming up.
That's correct.
All right. So you got candidates for upcoming elections. I want to get to all that a little bit later on. National story, Hunter Biden due in court today to plead to a misdemeanor on tax evasion, also for not documenting his past drug use when obtaining a gun. Normally wouldn't be a jailable offense. There's speculation that a Trump-appointed judge, though, Mike, will hear the case. Mary L. Noriega is her name, may not accept the plea, which could lead to jail time for Hunter Biden. I know you're not here talking about Hunter Biden.
Why don't we start with that and you go ahead and peel the Band-Aid off. And nobody's above the law.
Right.
And he's pleading guilty, and he should be treated like anybody else in a court of law. Now, can we talk about interims, and let's talk about state politics?
Okay? Have at it. I'm going to open it up to you, man. Go ahead.
Thank you. The interims are scheduled for the, I believe, first week of August. I think it's like 7th, 8th, and 9th. And the Democrats in the House, the caucus that I'm a member of, we issued a letter last week calling for a special session, and while we're hearing talk of a special session dealing with this almost while we're in interims, we're going to be coming up on the anniversary of the governor calling for a state of emergency in our correctional facilities. If it is a state of emergency, it is a crisis, and that means you don't wait around for a year until you address it. It needs to be addressed. So we are calling for a special session to address that issue, as well as several other issues. Also, our crisis in our institutions of higher learning. We just heard the report for not just at WVU, but the universities and
Alderson Broadus.
Alderson Broadus, a school that's been there for over 100 years, and might have to close its doors. We want to address that crisis. And, of course, probably the most important, in my opinion, the most important crisis right now facing this state, 8,000 children in foster care, an issue that's largely been ignored by the governor. It's a byproduct, of course, of the drug epidemic that has just ravaged this state. The governor has largely ignored that issue. We have an Office of Drug Control policy in this state. However, it has been vacant. There's no director. He hasn't appointed a director. He has left the director of the Office of Drug Control policy has left that position vacant for now nearly 8 months. So you can't tell me that's a priority of the governor. And yet we're now over a week, almost 2 weeks from the deadline, past the deadline that the governor had to appoint directors to the West Virginia First Foundation board that will determine how the drug abatement money is spent, the drug settlement money is spent. He hasn't appointed anybody to that yet. He has 5 appointees to make, hasn't made a single one yet. He's now almost 2 weeks past the deadline. But let me get back to the issue I was talking about, which is foster care, which is a byproduct of this drug problem that the governor is failing to address. We have over 8,000 children in the state's custody because of this issue. And we've heard reports just last week. There was a report, 300 instances. There were 300 children running away from the foster care system. Their situation is so bad, they would either sleep on the street or sleep in the woods. Then go to a group home or the placement that they were in, or the reports we've also heard that the state has been dropping off some of the foster children in hotels throughout the state, to fend for themselves, largely unsupervised. I think that's just something that would make any parent of a teenager in this state just shudder, to think that if they think about their kids just being left alone to fend for themselves in a hotel. This isn't how we would treat our kids. You know what? These are our kids. They're in state custody. And this is a crisis, and we need to address it. We need to address it yesterday.
I'm going to guess that when you hear the governor and you hear folks like Dave Hardy, Mike, talk about the excess money we have lying around, that you're not impressed.
Now, you know who's really not impressed? That correctional officer that has to put in a 12-hour workday and then drive home 50 to 100 miles each day. They're not too impressed with that surplus. The college student who's not sure if they can stay in West Virginia to finish their course of study because their course of study might be on the chopping block at their university or college. And I'll tell you, it's definitely not impressed is some kid that got dropped off this morning at the Motel 6.
Are you hopeful that anything will get done? Are you optimistic as far as the special session of the interims go? Do you think anything will get done?
You know, unfortunately, in state government and especially over the last 10 years of Republican rule, when it's all said and done, a lot more gets said than gets done, unfortunately. But we need to get some things done. We owe it to those kids that are being abandoned. We owe it to our correctional officers and support staff who's being treated like correctional officers, just not paid like correctional officers. We owe it to our college students. We owe it to the future of this state to actually do something about it. The state needs a governor right now, and we don't have one. We have a governor who's more focused on getting an office in Washington, D.C. than he is on showing up at his office down the road here in Charleston. The state deserves to have a governor and a functional state government. We don't have it right now.
10 minutes away from 10, Texas. Hey, Delegate Pushkin, here's a quarter. Call someone who cares.
If you can find me a payphone these days.
Actually, I saw one the other day.
Do they still cost a quarter?
I didn't use it. I have a cell phone, believe it or not. Although some places I travel in this state, cell phones are, as you well know, not much of a factor. We'll be back right after this with Delegate Mike Pushkin, 580 Live. Brought to you by Generations Physical Therapy, 7 convenient locations along I-64. And they're hiring, too, for both licensed and technically trained staff. For more information, visit generationspt.com. But back after this from the Parmar Store Studio, 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group and the voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Are you looking for a technical job in the medical field? Generations is growing and looking to add on job-trained physical therapy techs to our rehab team. To apply, visit one of our 7 convenient locations or simply click on us at generationspt.com.
Chevy Summer Drive is here, and it's time to find new roads to the Thornhill Motor Mile. Hey, it's Sydney inviting you to the Red, White, and Room celebration, and what better way to celebrate them with a Chevrolet Silverado. Get ready to experience the thrill of adventure with unbeatable deals on new Chevrolet Silverado. Save big with Georgia's Star Spangled Manager's discount up to $5,500 off 1,500 RST package and $7,500 off lifted custom packages. Click or come by at ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or US 119 in Chapmanville. Red, White, and Room. The celebration is on the road to total savings. Call 541-46 Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
Elevators. You take them for granted until they let you down. If you're working to maintain a stellar reputation, then let me introduce you to DC Elevator. We want to work with you to make sure your people get where they are going. What could be better than a new company coming to the area and already having 45 years of experience? DC Elevator is bringing a new culture of elevator maintenance, repairs, modernization, and installation to West Virginia. Don't leave your people hanging. For a free consultation, call DC Elevator at 304-345-7222.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
7 minutes away from 10, 580 Live, presented in part by Meeks Realty Group. Our area's most beautiful properties deserve the finest realtors. Meeks Realty Group. Visit them online, meeks.us, or call 304-440-1101. Text says, Dave, great to hear the legislators will put an end to this nonsense of transfer without penalty for our athletic youth. Long overdue. Thanks, Dave. Text says, Dave, the governor is calling for something. The delegate is calling for something. Well, I'm calling for something. I just don't know what it is, but I'm calling for it. Says the texter. Texter says an average of 4 overdose deaths every day here in West Virginia doesn't even take into account the thousands of other addicts and alcoholics needing help each day, let alone the homeless and mentally ill. What a rocket ride.
Yeah, we are in crisis mode. It has been, and it's nothing new, and it's not getting better. And the fact that we have an Office of Drug Control policy that was created by the legislature. And we have had some good directors of that office. But right now, that seat is vacant. There is no director. And it's not that there's any more extra funding or extra staff going in to help the folks who are doing a good job trying to hold things together over there without an appointed director. But we're now coming up on 8 months. 8 months without a director. So it's clearly not a priority for this governor. And like I said, when we created the West Virginia First Foundation, which is supposed to be an independent board, to disseminate the money that's going to be coming in to our localities for these drug settlements. Each of the regions, they followed the Articles of Incorporation, and they've elected directors to this board. The governor, if you read the Articles of Incorporation, he had the same deadline. And he was supposed to, actually, the way I read it, he was supposed to make his appointments first, because that could have influenced who the regions could have picked or not picked. If the governor put somebody on, they wouldn't put that person on. But the governor hasn't made his selection yet. I've not even heard rumors of who the governor is going to put on yet. And it was clear in the Articles of Incorporation, they had a certain amount of time to make these appointments. And the governor's appointments were actually referred to as initial appointments. My definition of that word is first. Mm-hmm. That would come first. He didn't make the appointments. It's clearly not a priority. He is more focused on running for office than serving in office.
580 Live is brought to you by Pinnacle Consultants. We spend 90% of our time indoors, and our health risk for air pollution can be greater indoors than outdoors. Pinnacle Consultants, the only accredited commercial lab in West Virginia for asbestos and mold. Visit pinnaclecorp.net, because what you don't know can hurt you. Texas Pushkin loves to complain and elaborate on problems that have persisted since before Republican control. The difference now is he wants to throw money at the problems like all Dems do. It didn't work the previous 84 years, and it won't now.
Well, these problems have gotten way worse over the past several years, and they've gotten way worse under the administration of James C. Justice, because we have an absentee governor. And when you have a governor that doesn't show up for work, a governor that makes appointments where he doesn't even know who he's appointing, and no offense to Secretary Sorcea, I think he's a good person. I know him. He's a nice guy.
New Homeland Security chief.
Homeland Security. But when the governor made that appointment, he clearly didn't know who he was. But did you watch the video of that?
I did not know.
But watch it. He doesn't know who he's appointing, and it's very clear. He said, I guess we're going to appoint. He can't pronounce his name. You think he would have learned how to say the man's name before he made the appointment? It's embarrassing, but that's what happens when you have a governor that doesn't show up for work. So I'm not just complaining. these are real issues. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of some kid whose parents have had their issues are so bad they can't take care of this child anymore. And then they get taken away by the state because there's nobody else to take care of them. And they can't find a placement for them anywhere because we're not making it easy enough for foster and kinship families to open up their homes to these children. We're not working with them well enough to actually to create more placements for these children. And instead, the state cares so little about them that they drop them off at a motel. So I think it's an important issue. And I think it's something that needs to be on the front burner. It needs to be addressed in a special session right now.
3 minutes away from 10. I know you're more concerned, Mike, with things relating to the Democratic Party, and I'll get to that momentarily. But, of course, Monday, State Auditor J.B. McCuskey dropped out of the race for governor, opting instead to run for Attorney General. He'll face off against Mike Stewart and Ryan Weld, a couple of state senators. And I know it's early. We have a bunch of Republicans that have thrown their hats in the proverbial ring for various seats, from governor, U.S. Senate, House, so on and so forth, Secretary of State, and others. Hearing rumors that Huntington Mayor Steve Williams may run for governor. Looks like he will on the Democratic side. When are we going to start to see more Democrats in the mix? I know it's early.
It is early.
And it used to be Labor Day was the time. But
yeah.
When do we start to see some announcements of some Democrats
The later
running?
we get in the summer, into the fall, we are having lots of conversations with great potential candidates who want to serve the state of West Virginia for all the right reasons, because they want to help make it a better state. They want to make it a place where people want to live, work, and raise a family. We're having those conversations, and as soon as we get commitments and websites set up and things ready to go, you'll be hearing them in due time. The filing period is not until January.
Right.
Well before that, you'll be hearing some announcements. You talked about my friend Auditor McCuskey, who is I like him. He's a good guy, but when I heard that you had Dana Ferrell on here, Delegate Ferrell, talking about the transfer portal. For a second, I thought you were talking about the transfer portal where you can just switch from the governor's race to the attorney general's race. Is that the transfer portal?
No, it's a different one we're talking about. Tex says Pushkin's always great at pointing out the problems, but never offers any solutions to the problems. He just wants to rail about his obsession with the governor. You can't force the citizens to take in children or work jobs they don't want to, no matter the pay.
You can actually talk to the foster families and the kinship families, like we do on our side regularly, have meetings with the groups that advocate for the foster families and who are foster families, and see what it would take to make it easier for them to take in more kids, or make it easier to have new foster families. We do have solutions. I talk about changing the pay scale for our correctional officers and staff, so we're able to retain the veterans in there, and also addressing the overcrowding in our jails and prisons. We have solutions, but first we have to have that special session to bring it up. And we have to have a healthy debate on it.
All right. Mike, I appreciate it. State Democratic Party Chair and Delegate Mike Pushkin, 580 Live, brought to you in part by your hometown baseball team, the Charleston Dirty Birds. All right, we got to go. My producer was Ryan Nicholson. Thank you so much, Mike. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and Rob Cornelius and Delegate Dana Ferrell as well. Somebody asked me, I can't find the text about the name of the water park proposed. Aspen Falls is going to be the name of it if it happens. All right, got to go. See you tomorrow. Till then, have fun and love somebody.
WCHS AM 96.5 FM Charleston, 104.5 Cross Lanes, a WVRC media station. We're proud to live here too.